What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 81. So, I know the podcast has been producing a lot of solo episodes lately. We're going to continue on that theme. And that's for several reasons. One of them being I've received tons of feedback saying I should do more solo episodes. And so, like I've said before, I kind of like to take the podcast in the direction that the fan base enjoys the most. And also, I want to continue to mix it up. I like the episodes where we're drinking, talking shit, having fun. I like the episodes where my guests, I feel, are people that have important messages that need to have a spotlight shined on what it is that they're doing. And then because of the podcast base giving me lots of feedback about enjoying solo episodes as well, I want to continue putting these out as well. Now, going into today's episode, we are talking about goals for 2022. I believe it was last week I talked about New Year's resolutions being something that I think are kind of strange, because if you see a deficit in your life, then instead of waiting for a specific date in the future to go ahead and start addressing those deficits, maybe it's something that you should change right now about yourself. But I also acknowledge that if a specific date is something that empowers people or motivates or helps people take that step towards that goal that they're taking, I also acknowledge that maybe I'm looking at that backwards. Maybe it's a strong tool for some people to start their journey. So in the past, I've poo-pooed on New Year's resolutions, talking shit about them, saying they're for weak people. And, with humility, and that's something that I think anybody that has any type of platform that they've created should always be willing to be honest about and share where they feel they've made missteps. And I think that I can acknowledge that if that tool helps certain people start them on the right path, helps them attain the goals that they're trying to obtain, then it's foolish of me to say that they're stupid or that you should do this. In all reality, we need to be utilizing whatever method best serves us. And human beings, we're all very different. We all derive motivation and power through different avenues. And so I was thinking about going into the new year and what I would like to change about myself, or what I would like to maintain or turn the volume up on and build off of what I've built over the last couple of years. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to do a goal setting episode. So episode 81 is going to be about my goals that I hope to either achieve or set myself on the path towards achieving throughout 2022. One of the gifts that I got from my wife on Christmas morning was a gratitude journal. And it's a very simple concept. And starting on New Year's, I am going to sit down at the end of the day and write down 3 things that I am grateful for. Now, these 3 things don't have to be something epic or something life-changing. Maybe it was the girl at the coffee stand gave me good energy with my interaction with her. And I'm grateful for a person in my community that exchanged positive energy with me when I bought my coffee. It can be big things, it can be small things. But at the end of the day, the whole point of this is to reflect, think about what the universe, what kind of different interactions came your way, different opportunities, different challenges, different interactions with both people in my family, the public, my business, online, and then talk about how I'm grateful for those experiences. And I think it's going to be a powerful tool. I've never done this before. This is new for me. And I think that it's important for us to continue trying new methods and new techniques in order to build ourselves spiritually and emotionally into a stronger person. Now, I talk often about building yourself into a stronger person physically and with your capabilities and how tough and resilient you are and making your body strong. We talk about that a lot on the show. And so I think it's also important to touch on what my goals are going to be moving forward for 2022 in relation to what's going to make me emotionally stronger and spiritually stronger. And so let's just go right into it. I wrote out a list. There are things that I'm hoping to, like I said, either accomplish this year or put myself on the path to continuously improve on throughout the next year. And one thing that is extremely important in the culture that we are a part of in American society, or if you're listening to this show anywhere in the world, that means you have an internet connection. And if you have an internet connection, you probably have a cell phone, you probably have bills. And so the financial aspect of life is a realistic and necessary aspect that we need to nurture, we need to grow, and we need to set goals on. A lot of people, you always hear people say, like, do what you love and never work a day in your life. And I've seen both sides of that coin because I have ran a jiu-jitsu academy, and that is what I love to do. And there are times when jiu-jitsu did not cover my bills. There was a time when I was going into debt, and it was between when I'd quit the Marshal Service and before I'd been picked up by the Port of Seattle Police Department. There was a break in service, and the only thing that was providing financial income during that break in service was my jiu-jitsu academy, and it wasn't doing well. And every month I was borrowing more money, and we were putting things on credit cards, and financial debt and financial stress will directly lead to physiological stress, meaning it manifests in your body. And the more in debt that I got and the more struggle that I faced as a small business owner, the less sleep I got and the more exhausted I felt. And once you stop sleeping, and I know a lot of you guys have gone through bouts of insomnia, then depression sets in, and it seems like it just becomes a downward spiral, and it gets continuously harder to claw your way back out and find yourself back on top. And I've been very open and honest about that. And so jiu-jitsu was not providing what I needed it to provide. Even though I felt like I was giving it a lot of energy, I was putting what I thought needed to be put into the academy. And, I still don't know necessarily what changed. I think I just had to go through some more things before the universe was ready to allow my jiu-jitsu academy to be a financially viable business. Because if you just go into something and it works and it provides what you think it's going to provide and everything is good and you don't face those ups and downs and those hardships and you don't face those uncertain times, what you've created probably isn't going to be as complete as if it was a long and arduous journey before it became something successful. And so when I look back on that now, I'm happy. I'm glad that my jiu-jitsu academy struggled for years and years because it made me appreciate it for what it was. It made me realize what needed to be nurtured, where I needed to put my focus. But it also made me realize that jiu-jitsu, teaching the art, training the art, my team, all these things that I love about jiu-jitsu, that is my passion. But for it to work as my passion, there's an equal and opposite side to that. And that is the business side of the house. It's your memberships, monitoring your memberships. It's making sure you're on top of your apparel and you're on top of your inventory, and you're making sure that everybody is in the system correctly and you're able to communicate with all your members. And not only are you gaining memberships consistently, but you're also maintaining, because there's a lot of turnover in martial arts. And so here I am now. Let's see, I'll be 7 years open in February, and the business is finally booming. And it is a combination of things. Obviously, if you're listening to this show, you know my story. The fucking video, and I got a bunch of fucking notoriety online. That really helped the business grow. The other thing that helped the business grow was COVID because while everyone else was shut down, I said, fuck the lockdowns, come train. And because I was the only show in town for a while, we gained a lot of new members that in other life circumstances may have not been interested in jiu-jitsu. I've talked about on the show before, people that are into yoga or Pilates or Globo gyms. Like there's a million different fitness avenues that you can, or different approaches to fitness that you can take. Jiu-jitsu is one of them, but because most of the other ones were closed, a lot of people thought, I'll go check out this jiu-jitsu / CrossFit academy. And our CrossFit side of the house and our jiu-jitsu side of the house absolutely exploded during COVID. And the cool thing about it is once you come and try those things, what are people looking for 9 times out of 10? They are looking for community. They're looking for camaraderie. They're looking for accountability. And so because I have created what I believe to be a really powerful and impactful team, and the people that are in that facility are good people, when other people come in and check it out, they feel that. And they say, hey, there's something to this. I want to be part of this. And so we've seen growth become exponential because of those two things that really put a spotlight on me and my academy, and then the lockdowns. And it was like the perfect storm. And it's interesting because a lot of people talk about what a terrible year COVID was. 2020 being the worst year, 2021, not much better. But the reason I bring this up is because it's all in the eye of the beholder. I got fired and I was looking at losing pretty much all of my income. The Jiu-Jitsu Academy we had like 25 members, and that there's no sustainability in having a business with 25 members. And so when I got fired, I was looking at uncertainty. I was like walking towards the edge of a cliff, and I didn't know what was next. I didn't know that the GoFundMe would happen. And it's bizarre that I got a lot of hate for that. And, I've talked about it before, but if the GoFundMe is public information, you can go look, you can see every last person's contribution. And it's like 95% of them were like $5 and $10. And it was people that just heard the video. It resonated with them. And they said, you know what? I like this guy. I'm going to throw him $5. Well, when someone throws you $5, thousands and thousands and thousands of times, it adds up. And when it was all said and done, we made a little over $400,000 on the GoFundMe. Now, there were a lot of people that were like, what are you going to do with all that extra money that you don't spend on your legal defense? And you could tell the tones of their emails were like gross. Like, why the fuck do you care where that money goes? Why the fuck do you care how it's spent? And you're not out anything, like has nothing to do with you. And so it's the mindset of scarcity as opposed to the mindset of abundance. Never look at somebody else that's had fortune cast down upon them and something positive is happening in their life and attack that with jealousy or malice, because all that shows is that there's something in your life that you believe is deficient. There's something in your life that you're not happy about. And instead of addressing that, you cast that on other people. And this is the reality of it. And I spent a lot of money on legal defense. And I think I went through 3 lawyers, and I sued the Port of Seattle, and nothing ever came of it because, yeah, I made 400 grand, but that's a multi-billion-dollar corporation, and they have the fucking best attorneys in the world. They had a lot of all their T's crossed and their I's dotted, and they were not intimidated by Greg Anderson's little lawsuit that he was going to bring. And so we went back and forth, and I decided to walk away from it because after spending $50,000 or something crazy like that, I was like, you know what? I could continue to fight this, and My lawyer said, you continue to fight this, there's a good chance you walk with nothing and you lose what you have. And it will be a long and arduous process. And they will want to be talking to your mother and your coworkers from 10 years ago and on and on and on. And they will drag this out and they will drag you through the mud. And so I was like, you know what? I think the healthiest thing for me, walk away, forget being a fucking cop. I'm not pursuing that career anymore. I'm not going to put myself in that kind of environment with those kinds of people. And I'm talking about the vile leadership. I'm not talking about your patrol deputies and your day-to-day officers. A lot of those people I have a lot of respect for, as you know. But I needed to just start over. And so that's when I started this podcast. That's when I started Guns and Geese. That's when I started nurturing the Jiu-Jitsu Academy a lot differently than I was. And now, between my Guns and Geese program, between my Jiu-Jitsu Academy and this podcast, financially, we're doing pretty well. And again, money's a weird topic, right? When you talk about money, it's like, if you talk about being financially successful, it's almost like you're boasting or it's a big dick measuring contest. And so the reason I bring this up is it not to, oh, look at me, I'm a success story, because I'm far from it, guys. I'm far from where I want to be. I'm nowhere near what I would consider comfortable or having any type of long-term wealth, but we are more than comfortable right now. We're making a lot more than I made as a patrol officer. We are able to have enough extra income to be able to do things like family vacations and bought another piece of property and things like that. And so I think being financially successful should be a goal of every single American. Because if you don't build a path to independent wealth, then you're stuck in the machine your whole life. And if I didn't do something dramatic that got me fired and made me sit back and say, whoa, what do I have to do next? If I didn't do that, I would have been stuck in the machine until I was probably 57 and got a bullshit retirement from the Port of Seattle and lived out my last 2 decades of life broken and old with a fucking little stipend where I get this many thousands of dollars each month. And what it made me realize is we are just consistently being slaves to the system to some extent. You're a slave when you're a 9-to-5er. You're a slave if you're counting on your Social Security check. You're a slave if you're counting on your retirement check, because all of those little things come with a huge part of your life being taken from you. And I'm not claiming to have all the answers, because we have to work, we have to provide, we have to pay for our for our food, and we have to pay for the roof over our heads. But I think we need to look at it like this. I think we need to be that worker bee through our 20s and our 30s. And then in our 40s, it's time to fly the coop again. Look at your career path. Look at your boss. Look at your supervisors as almost parental figures. They are grooming you. They're helping you both with positive and negative influence, right? Some of the best leadership lessons I've ever learned are from working under shitty people that have no leadership. So you have those ups and downs in your professional career. And by the time we're in our 40s, it's time to create something of our own, something that gives you longevity with income, and then something that gives you freedom. We talk about freedom a lot on the show. And freedom is, in my opinion, the ability to live your life without any strings attached to other people or other government entities or any corporations or any type of employer. Freedom is when you stand on your own 2 feet and you sink or swim based on your own actions. So I want to be at a place, and my financial goal for by the end of 2022, I would like to be making $20,000 a month. And it's funny because when you hear a number like $20,000 a month, to some people, that'd be the worst month they ever had in their life. They're like, fuck, dude, I'm going to go broke at this rate. $20,000 a month, that's shit. Other people would look at that and think, fuck, man, I am rich. I fucking made it. And then there's everything in between, right? But I look at that number, and there's times I've made more than that. When I was a military contractor working in Ramadi, I made a lot more than that. And so I know what that feels like. I know what you can do with that. I know what living with that amount of money is, what kind of lifestyle comes with that. But it's also very different as a 24-year-old single man versus a dad with a house full of kids, food, tuition, just the bills stack up. And it's like the next person that comes into your household, meaning the next child, it's like everything gets exponentially more expensive. And so $20,000 a month for a family of 5 is actually, it's comfortable. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to say I won't be comfortable, but it is not like some fucking lifestyles of the rich and famous amount, and far from it. But I want to make more money consistently, and I want to build a foundation in the different aspects of my life that are providing wealth to be something I can count on and something that is sustainable. And so how do I want to do that? I want to have my jiu-jitsu academy. I want it to explode this year. We grew by 500% in the year 2021, which is dramatic, right? And we are now at capacity. It's at some point in the near future, I'll probably have to stop taking new members because my mat space is only capable of having so many people attend class. Now, in the world of jiu-jitsu, there are our golden hours, and I consider my golden hours 4:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. That is when the majority of your 9 to 5ers are able to get their kids in for kids class, come train personally for adults class, but still be home by 8 p.m. Because if you got to get up on the grind the next morning, nobody wants to train at 10 p.m. Nobody wants to be out super late. Nobody wants to be up at 5 a.m. training because if you're a motivated enough person to be training at 5 a.m., you probably have other shit to do with your day. And so I have found, yes, we run a morning class, but I put my energy into the evening class because that is overwhelmingly where the majority of people want to show up and train, and that's where they want to put their energy into. Now, so I don't have, because a lot of people say, run more classes. Well, there's only so much time between 4:30 and 7:30, and it's plugged Monday through Friday. And the only answer now is another facility. So my financial and my business goals of 2022 are going to be directly tied to a new facility. That new facility will allow new members, and it will allow us to have a larger capacity per class. Right now, we're at about 30 people per class, and that's about all we can take. And so I own the property that my business is on. I own the facility. And so I don't pay rent to somebody else. And that's always been something that I've prided myself on, that I was able to create that. Again, that's freedom when you're in charge of your business and your bills. But I have no option of moving to a bigger facility. I shouldn't say I have no options. I could do that if I wanted to, but now I'm right back where I never wanted to be, paying somebody else so I can run my business. And what I'm doing is I would be creating sustainable wealth for somebody else. I don't want to fucking do that. I'm worried about numero uno right now. And that is what you have to do if you want to succeed. So on to the next phase of growing the business is a new facility. I am hoping by the end of 2022 to not only have the new facility. Well, I shouldn't say that. I should say I don't necessarily think I will have the new facility because I've built a building before and I know what that consists of. It's a long permitting process. They have to do your water runoff plan, and they have to, at least in Washington State, and they want to look at your wetland assessment. And if you have Indian artifacts under the ground, and they want to ultrasound it, and it goes on and on and on. And I was told that I'm looking at 8 months just to get a permit approved. So we have some logistics that we got to handle. But my hope is by the end of year 2022, I have a 100% plan that is not only planned out, but it is being implemented. The plan is in action, and either construction is actively happening or we are actively wrapping construction up, and the new facility will be hopefully ready to move into early 2023 at the absolute latest. So that is my financial goal. That is my business goal when it comes to jujitsu. Now, the other business goal, this podcast. This podcast has become something that is a viable business model for me. Now, I hear Andy Stump talk about it a lot, and I agree with him. Do not start a podcast if your goal is making money, because podcasts do not make very much money. Invest your energy into a podcast if you enjoy putting out content and sharing with other people. And the content itself is going to determine if it becomes a financially viable platform or not. And over the last year, we're at episode 80, or this is 81. So, we're 81 weeks into the podcast journey. And it has become something that does start to produce a little bit of extra income. That's not something that, again, the podcasting is like jiu-jitsu. You're not going to raise a family on a podcast until you get to one of the fucking OGs in the industry, a Joe Rogan, a Jocko, an Andy Stump. And, those are the guys that I follow. I'm sure there's some heavy hitters in circles that I'm not familiar with. But the thing is, do not think that a podcast is going to be your path to freedom. What you need to do is invest the energy that you need to invest to create something special, and it will grow, and it will manifest into something on its own. If it does, awesome. If it doesn't, equally awesome, because this is what I say about podcasts. You need to be putting out content that is authentic to who you are. It is congruent with how you behave and how you believe. And if one person listens to it and it changes their life, or 50,000 people listen to it and it changes their life, then your content can be considered a success. Don't focus on the numbers when you are thinking about creating a podcast. Now, with that said, we also live in the world of reality. And in reality, what is going to generate income in regards to a show? Well, it's going to be how many downloads do you get a month? And so I would like to get, again, here's my 2022 goal for the show. By the end of the year, I want to consistently get 50,000 downloads a month on iTunes. And I don't care about YouTube because YouTube fucking puts me in jail, and I'm in and out of jail on YouTube all the time. And because of that, they can fuck themselves. But it's not a sustainable model for growth, because at any given time, they can say, Greg Anderson said something crazy again and he's off the air. So fuck you, YouTube. But so I'm going to put my focus in the avenues that do produce a lot of listeners. And that is Apple, and that is Spotify, and the big podcasting networks, right? And I'm hoping to have 50,000 downloads a month. That is a number that is extremely attainable. We're actually just underneath that right now. But last year's goals for me were too big, and I realized that I was shooting for the stars and we didn't hit them. So I feel like this is going to be consistent growth for the show, but it's also going to be something that is attainable and something that I can be proud of, that we will be successful at by the end of this year. Now, other goals. I think I talk about a lot on the show is sustainability, your own sustainability, meaning we're off the tit of the government and you have to figure out what's most important for you. Now, we are still in the midst of uncertain times. I don't think that anybody that's being realistic with themselves can say, hey, those dark times are behind us and it looks like everything's on the uptick. Hopefully it is. There are things that are taking place that make me wonder if we're going to be able to change the trajectory of this country. A lot of people are upset with the bullshit, and a lot of people on both sides of the fence politically are ready for a change. And I think we may be approaching a point where we turn the ship a few degrees this year. And we may not feel, just like if you turn a ship a few degrees, you may not feel a dramatic change at that moment. But once the trajectory changes a few degrees and you look out 2, 3, 5 years, it's a massive difference from where you would have been. And so I think we may be on the precipice of changing the trajectory. Maybe it's just wishful thinking, but like I always say, if you don't have hope, you fucking have nothing. And so I want to take my sustainability goals and just nurture them a little bit. I want to nurture them a little bit because I don't have a lot to give right now. My time is spent, my money is spent, but I have to know that if we do not change the trajectory of this country and we do find ourselves in a situation where we need to be 100% self-sustainable, that I have options. I believe if you have options during a fucking insert whatever scenario, post-apocalyptic scenario, okay? It could be government unrest. It could be the grid going down. It could be a fucking catastrophic weather occurrence. It could be whatever. But as soon as you are 100% self-reliant on yourself, there are a couple things that are going to set you apart from everybody else. So I've been taking some steps to be one of those people that is in the 1%. And that is a piece of property. That has already been purchased. That has already, I fought a legal battle over the driveway that took fucking 8 months. We now have our driveway. So incrementally, I'm taking steps forward. This property is on a river, and this property has a fresh water source. So there you have, right now, we have our location, we have a water source. The last thing that I want by the end of 2022 is a power source. I want to have all of the pieces in, maybe not up and operational, but I want to have them on hand and available if it becomes necessary. And I want to have some type of turbine that I can pull power from the river. And now I know people, you can't put a turbine on a river because it affects the fish spawning in the spring and the government will never allow you. Yeah. I get all that. Okay. I get all that. That's why I said I don't want it operational. I want everything on hand. Because let's be honest, if we're living in a fucking post-apocalyptic scenario, I don't give a fuck about the stuff like that. I give a fuck about having my children stay warm at night. And so I want to have that ability. I want to have that capability on hand and available and ready to go if necessary. Now, the other thing that I want to have out there is I want to have a couple cabins constructed and also ready to go by the end of the year, 2022. And I think those goals will be attainable. I've talked about it on the show before. I'm hoping that nothing happens negatively to this country. I'm hoping that we can turn the trajectory to a better path. But if we don't, I want to have those things available. If we do, I still think those things, cabins in the woods, are going to be very applicable to some of the business models that I want to expand on. I want to run guns and geese. I want to hold land nav courses. I want to teach people about some basic rangering skills. I want to do these things out in the woods. Dude, we could do ranger rope bridges across the river. Develop capability. But part of that is having the facility to accommodate that stuff. So I want to take that property. I want to make it something that is not only sustainable for my family, but also sustainable for some of the business models that I want to expound on over the next year, 2, 3. All right. So on to the next goal is my health. I think health is probably the most underrated goal in America. And I say that because we're at over 60% obesity rate for adults. My standard for being healthy, and I know it's dramatic to some people, but you either have a six-pack or you're a fat ass. That's it. And that's for guys. Girls' bodies, they manifest, or I shouldn't say, girls' bodies hold fat in a very different way than guys' bodies hold fat. And so for a male, having six-pack abdominals is something that is indicative of taking care of yourself, eating clean foods, and having the discipline to train properly, but more importantly, hold yourself to a standard of what you put in your fucking mouth. Everybody says abs are made in the kitchen, right? And that is because you can't outwork a bad diet. You can be up at 5 a.m. every morning like Jocko, hitting your assault bike and swinging kettlebells, and you can be in phenomenal shape when it comes to your cardiovascular endurance and your strength. Your body can get extremely, extremely tough, but still hold a lot of fat. And there are plenty of people out there that hold a lot of fat that could beat me to death. I understand that. Look at Big Country, Roy Nelson. Even Cain Velasquez held a lot of body fat when he was the UFC heavyweight champion. So fat isn't always an indicator of how well your body performs. And I get that. And there are some people that even say, I want a little extra fat just in case we come up on hard times. I want my body to be able to sustain it. And hey, I'm not here to say what's right and what's wrong. But for me, someone that is secretly inside of my own brain, a fucking fat kid, I know that I either have to stay very disciplined or the wheels fall off and I'm fucking completely useless. And I'll just order a large pizza and I'll eat the whole thing. And I don't want to be that person. So I'm going to have strict dietary guidelines throughout this year. I did my 40-day apples, steak, and eggs diet, and it had dramatic impact on me. It was sustainable because I had good energy levels. I trained jiu-jitsu, I trained CrossFit, and I was consistently losing body fat, but not muscle. So for me to be able to create a diet that was sustainable and also had the desired effects that I liked, I think I'm going to continue. Remember, people, your fitness goals need to be based off of two things. How do I look and how do I feel? Now, those are going to be in the eye of the beholder, because how do you want to look and how do you want to feel? You know, do you want to feel like the strongest man in the world? If your goal is to deadlift 900 pounds, that's going to feel a lot different than someone's bot who's training their body to be able to run an Ironman triathlon. So how you look and how you feel are important metrics to measure, but they're also going to be completely dependent on what your specific goals are. And so how do you look? How do you feel? I know how I want to look and I know how I want to feel. And I think the way that I want to feel this year is much more based in long-term endurance. I want to be able to move my body for long periods of time. I want to have a good engine and I want to be able to sustain output. I don't want to be a fucking gigantic, super strong guy. I also don't want to be, a fucking anorexic ultra marathoner. I want to be somewhere in between. And at 205 pounds, that's usually what I walk around at. I think, being honest with myself, I'm probably not going to be some long-term runner. And also with the knee problems I've had, I think I'm going to have to base my high amount of cardiovascular output on things like Stairmasters and bikes, hiking and climbing mountains. And what that's going to do is it's going to build a body that's tough, it's dependable, and it can work and it can get the job done. And I can get from point A to point B if I need to be. So I'm going to continue doing 40-day stints of those three foods. I am going to obviously augment that based on my body's needs. And I'm not going to be super strict on what I can do and what I can't do when I'm having cheat days or in between challenges. And I think that's what's sustainable for me. I'll do 40 days, maybe a week off. 40 days, week off. That's going to allow you to have your fucking bullshit lickies and chewies, enjoy your life, have your pizza, but also stay disciplined 95% of the time. If you're disciplined 95% of the time, you can probably enjoy the 5% a little more. I want to consistently be 10% body fat or less. And the reason that I want to stay consistent on this is because it's easy to, I dieted, I did my whatever, I hit this goal, now I'm done. And then you rebound. You start eating bullshit and you start fucking putting on body weight almost immediately. And if you don't get right back on the horse, it's easy to lose what you've gained. And so for me, I want to consistently stay on top of this rather than have these big ebbs and flows as I'm really healthy and then I lose it. And then I get really healthy and then I lose it. My goal for this year is to stay sustainable, consistent, and be sustainable throughout the entire year. So 2022, that's the goal. And through that, I think something I want to do is a lot of VO2 max work. And when I say a lot, I think one time a week, hard VO2 max sessions that is improving my body to how it utilizes oxygen under stress. I don't have a lot of jujitsu goals anymore when it comes to being the individual jujitsu athlete. I look at my path. I want to continue to get better. I want to continue to train. And that's probably something that I will do forever unless some type of injury takes me out of it. But I think goals for me, like, I want to win pans this year. You know what? That doesn't fucking get me excited. I used to compete a lot more than I do now, and I had some ups and downs, but that's never lit a fire in me. That's never been something that's like, fuck yes, this is what I want to be. It's something I do. It's part of me, but it's not everything. And so this year, my biggest fitness goals are going to be related to the mountains. I want to summit Rainier again. It will be my 6th summit of Mount Rainier here in Washington. But it's been, I think my last summit was 2018, maybe? I can't remember. 2017, 2018, somewhere around there. I want to do that mountain again. But I don't want to just do that mountain. I want to crush that mountain. Through all of my different summits on Mount Rainier, there's only been one that I crushed it. And I felt like, fuck yeah, I'm in shape this time. Every other time, I just kind of do that mountain on a whim. And I'll be like, yeah, I'll go do Rainier. I don't train for it. I don't prepare, and it turns into a suck fest because I live at fucking sea level. So for me to go do Mount Rainier with zero training and no real acclimatization, it sucks. So I think this year I want to figure out a path to make Rainier a little more enjoyable. And the only way to do that is to put in the work. And there's been a blessing and a curse for me my entire life is that sometimes I can put in minimal effort for things, but then I just grit my way through it and make it happen. And sometimes that's good, but a lot of times equally it's as bad because not putting in the work is going to put you in a scenario where you are not prepared. And I found myself at 13,000 feet on that mountain plenty of times feeling very underprepared. But I just keep putting one foot in front of the other until I get to the summit. My climbing partner, who's a very established mountaineer, he's a fucking stud. He always tells me, he goes, I've never seen someone as miserable as you on the mountain that absolutely will not quit. And so I have that going for me, but my body fizzles out at high altitudes. And that's just because I haven't spent time up there. So I want to climb Mount Rainier. I need to summit Mount Olympus because Mount Olympus beat me last year. We were just underneath the fucking summit ridge and it got it just got too fucking dicey up there. The ice was steep. It was hard. We didn't have very good crampons and the ice axes were not getting very good bites into the ice. And I called it because no mountain's worth dying on, right? But those are my 2 adventure goals, Mount Olympus, Mount Rainier. If you have not watched 14 Peaks yet, go watch 14 Peaks. It's Nims Purja who set the world record on climbing all 14,000 or all 14 8,000 meter peaks. And when you watch that documentary, if it doesn't instantly motivate you to be a better person, there's fucking something wrong with you. And so that documentary has motivated me to get back in the mountains and start living a little harder than I was living. And so those are my adventure goals and my health goals. Another thing that I need to do, and this is a big one for everybody, recovery goals. Everybody focuses on their cardiovascular endurance and their strength and their diet when it comes to their health. And those are cool goals. Those are cool aspects of your health that you do need to put a fair amount of emphasis on. But now, and especially if you're my age, if you're over 40 guys, recovery goals. What are you doing to increase your mobility? What are you doing to increase your flexibility? What are you doing to treat your injuries? How are you recovering from your hard workouts? Now, you can be David Goggins and say, fuck recovery, and more power to him. I look up to that guy. I wish I could say fuck recovery. I do. He's a fucking stud. I am not on that level. I have to recover because if I don't, what it does is it takes my sustainability and it takes the trajectory I'm on and it starts to actually diminish it. And so I've recently found the Knees Over Toes page, and he sells a program that is built around building bulletproof knees. And when you're older and you've done jiu-jitsu for 20 years and you are an Army Ranger jumping out of airplanes and helicopters, your knees are going to be beat the fuck down. So I'm going to implement his program this year. And I'm hoping by the end of the year that after doing this consistently, that I do build knees that are tough, capable, and pain-free. And I'm not going to get a fucking knee replacement because when I post that picture on my Instagram, I had a bunch of orthopedic surgeons write me and say, your knees are fucking good. Don't listen to any doctor that's told you otherwise. Just keep doing the right things, take care of them, build them, make them strong, eat clean foods, and your knees will serve you as long as you serve them. And when I hear doctors saying that to me, it makes me realize, okay, let's do that. Let's take care of each other. I'm going to take care of my knees. My knees are going to take care of me. And that is the goal. It's the weakest part of my body, and it's something that I need to put some focus on with maybe stem cells, PRP, the peptides, the 157 proved to be very good for my knees. And so I'm going to take care of them this year, and hopefully I can build them into something that can take me up even bigger mountains the following year. So those are my adventure goals. Those are my health goals. Those are my goals that relate to my business and my financial success. The last thing I'll say is my family goals. And then I want to talk about some weekly benchmarks because I think weekly benchmarks are important. I have 3 daughters and very rarely do I get one-on-one time with them. My house is a fucking zoo. We have a bunch of dogs. We have a bunch of cats. Or no, I shouldn't say that. Our cats got eaten by coyotes. Bunch of dogs, bunch of kids, and it's just pandemonium. But it's good pandemonium. We make it work. I love it. I wouldn't change it. But what I find is when you have a house full of people all the time and you're on the go all the time and you take them all to the gym and it's just like a caravan. You go to school together, you go to the gym together, you go to jiu-jitsu together. I need to give my daughters one-on-one time. So in the year 2022, one of the goals is have one-on-one time with each one of my children and my wife at least once a month. And when I say one-on-one time, I mean we either go out to dinner or we go out to coffee. But it is you, me, we leave the house just together and we focus on building the relationship with only each other over the next hour or 2. And one time a month does not sound like logistically something that would be hard to do. But that's 4 girls. That's my 3 daughters and my wife. So that's one time a week that you need to set aside 2 or 3 hours to focus on another member of your family. Well, 2 or 3 hours a week to focus on one person, it does start to become tough. And it's easy to get caught up in the fucking everything that's happening and then stop focusing on the little things in life that are important. And that is one-on-one time with your kids. I've been terrible at this. Terrible. I think I went out to dinner with one of my daughters on her own once last year. Outside of that, we have been an entire family that's just on the move together all the time. And it's cool in some aspects, but I think it's important to start nurturing that one-on-one time too, especially as they start becoming teenagers, because my daughters are 6, 9, and 12. And they're going to be reaching that point soon where they are going to need more one-on-one guidance. And you need to put them in situations where they can open up, they can ask you questions, they can talk to you. And they have to obviously have the actual logistics of having an opportunity to talk to you, but also they need to have the comfort level to approach you. And even though I think I'm a pretty good dad, are my daughters comfortable coming to me with all different topics? I don't know. I'd like to hope that they would be, but I don't know. And the only way to ensure that they are is to continue to build that relationship and then give them opportunity. So I'm hoping by doing this that my daughters will have a better trusting relationship with me where they feel comfortable opening up, but then also the time allocated so they can do exactly that. I want them to know when we go out and it's dad time, we can have fun, we can shoot the shit, we can laugh. Or if during this 2 or 3 hours there's something in your mind or something in your life that you need to get in the weeds with, we can do that too. And this is your time. And this is your time to serve you the best as with us together. So that's kind of my family goals. And the last thing I'll say is weekly benchmarks. I think it is important to sauna 3 times a week. My sauna is my tool to make me feel a lot of adversity. It's funny because my sauna is called an almost heaven. That's the brand that made it, but it fucking feels like I'm almost in hell. And so when I get in that thing, it doesn't matter how many times I do it. I am in for kind of an emotional odyssey because you get in and it feels good and you put your essential oils over the rocks and it steams up in there and it clears out your sinuses and it's enjoyable for 5 to 10 minutes. And then from 10 to 20, it's kind of like, fuck. All right, I need to kind of get in my zone. I need to find that happy spot. And then from 20 to 30, it's basically like I'm in hell. But I like that. I want it to feel challenging. I want to feel like I'm about to die in there. And that is because I'm using that session to make my body tougher, but also mental resiliency. Then I step out of the sauna and I get into the ice. And it's the same thing. I know that the ice is good for me on a physiological level, but I like to hone my mental toughness using hot and cold. And so I've been doing this for 5 years now. Well, I shouldn't say that. I've been doing ice for 5 years. I've been doing sauna consistently for 1 because we got that sauna about a year ago. And now I'm combining them. So hot cold therapy 3 times a week. Another thing is reading. And this is one of the most important aspects of my goals of 2022 because I have dropped the ball on reading my entire adult life. I read when I need to. I read when it's something that serves me or something I'm extremely interested in, but there's always an ebb and flow. I'll read a book that kind of captivates me, and then I won't read for months. And I'll find myself staring at my fucking phone all day, and I'll check my screen time at the end of the day, and it'll say 6 hours. And most of that's on fucking Instagram, scrolling through bullshit. And I think, man, imagine if you had spent 6 hours of today reading. The information is out there. The most successful, motivated people in the world read a substantial amount. And not listening to audiobooks, not having them on in their car. I'm not saying those are bad things. Any way you consume your media and you gain information, you become smarter, that's cool. And I appreciate that. And I do that as well. But when I'm talking about reading, I mean a book in hand and I'm looking at pages. That's what I want to do this year. I want to read a substantial more amount of books. Excuse me. Another reason we're doing solos is because I've been sick as fuck for like 2 weeks now. And nobody probably wants to sit in a room with me and catch Omicron. I don't know if I had it or not. I didn't get tested because I don't fucking care. But I digress. I want to read 15 pages a day. That is my goal. That doesn't sound like much, but I can read more than that if I choose. But if I read 15 pages a day, that is 105 pages a week. That is 450 pages a month. And over the course of the entire year, that would be 18 300-page books. 18 books in a year. I haven't fucking read that much ever. And so I want to start, and I started today actually, and it is December 28th. I know this podcast will come out on January 6th. So it'll be a couple days after the new year. People are already getting started on their stuff. But I want that to start immediately. And it did. It started today. And it started with Nim's Purja 14 Peaks book. I just talked to you guys about the documentary. I bought the book and I started reading it. And so far, it's fucking awesome. And yeah, that's where I'm at on stuff. So I kind of touched on a little bit of everything, kind of my personal goals, my family goals, a couple adventures I want to do, business, health, financial. But here's the thing with this, guys. The interesting thing or the fun thing for me about this podcast is I don't feel qualified to sit up on a platform and say, be a Tony Robbins or an Andy Frisella or a Jocko. Guys that are like, you need to get up, you need to do this, and you need to put your energy here, because I'm not there yet. I'm just simply not there yet. I don't feel like I have the validity or the life experience to be telling you what to do, what not to do, what's going to serve you better. I think I am in a mid-level point in that in my life. And most 40-year-old men are probably here with me, where we lived. We have a lot of experience. We have a lot to offer. But on the equal and opposite side of that, we have a lot of growing to do. We have a lot of things to figure out. We have a lot of paths. We have a lot of uncharted waters ahead of us. And we're still figuring out who we are and how we take our life in the best trajectory we can take it in. And so when I built this podcast and this platform and gained quite a bit of listeners, I've always approached it as I'm in this with you guys. It's not me telling you what to do. It's me doing this kind of stuff with you, with capabilities, with health, with fitness, with jujitsu. I talk about all this stuff. I'm an advocate about all this stuff. But as I advocate for this stuff, I am also walking that path myself. And what that does is it makes us have accountability with each other. It's the whole reason I decided to do this episode. I want accountability with my listeners, and I want my listeners to have accountability with me. And so if I say to you guys over the course of the last 57 minutes, these are the things I want to do. This is the direction I want to take my life. These are the goals I want to set. These are the benchmarks I want to hit. If I do that publicly, I'm held accountable by you guys. And so what I ask of you guys is you listen to this episode, you reflect on your life, you reflect on what needs to change or what needs to be improved upon, put it out to the world. Put it out over your social media. Tell your friends and your family. Fuck, tag me in it if you can. I want to see that stuff. That's cool, you know? And I in pure honesty and just pure transparency, my Instagram inbox is a shit show. Sometimes I can manage it. A lot of times it's just a sea of fucking messages coming through, and I see a lot of them and I miss a lot of them. And so if I miss your stuff, I apologize. But a better way to interact over social media, I honestly feel, is like commenting on pictures and being engaged in the comment section of the stuff that I post, because it's there. You see that and you can interact that way. Or tag me in stuff, because when you tag me in stuff, it's going to pop up in my notifications, and hopefully those don't just get zipped by like the messages do. And I can go to your page and I can see what it is you're talking about. And I can see what it is that you're trying to set, the goals you're trying to set for yourself. And again, I'm not your fucking guru. I'm not here to say, oh, you didn't fucking meet your goal. Go out, do 100 burpees. Like I'm not here to fucking make sure that you make all your fucking numbers and you're trying to fucking get to and all the stuff that maybe a life coach would do for you. That's not me. I'm just a fucking dude. But just a fucking dude is who I find holds you accountable the best. My friends that are just normal fucking people. The people I share the mats with. The people I share the CrossFit gym with. The people that I invest my time with. Those are who I want to be accountable to. But I do say that social media is a legitimate tool of accountability. Because if you create or if you follow like-minded people and you you have your eyes on. Like for me, for instance, when I'm scrolling through my feed, I'm seeing what Mike Glover's doing. I'm seeing what Andy Stump's doing. I'm seeing what Joe Rogan's doing. I'm seeing what Jocko's doing. I'm seeing what Mitch Aguiar's doing. I'm seeing what Greg Lappin's doing and Joe Assis. All of these people that, yes, I look up to them on one hand. Some of them I have personal relationships as well, so that kind of accentuates that a little bit. But I use social media as a means to see what powerful people are doing, how they're spending their time. And then that gives me a little bit of accountability, because if they're out there doing it, I want to be out there doing it. So then I'll go take a picture of something, or tell a story about something, or run a class, or do the Guns and Geese camp, and then I share it. And what that does is it reciprocates that. Now everybody that follows me gets a little piece of, oh, he's out there doing this. He did that. Oh, I remember he talked about wanting to do that on episode 81. And look, he's doing it now. So that is what we need to be. We hold each other accountable through Instagram, through social media. And I'm the first to say, guys, I know it's a fucking cesspool out there. And inevitably in this life, you get what you're looking for, or you will find what you were looking for, right? So if you want to get on social media and you want to be pissed off at what a piece of shit Joe Biden is, you can consume 6 hours of doing that. You can fucking find that in 10 seconds, and you can spend as much time basically reassuring or taking a position that you have, and helping the stuff that you find online is going to kind of accentuate that and support your ideas. It's easy to just get lost down these rabbit holes of just reassurance. Rabbit holes of reassurance. There you go. That's a new one. Because that's what the internet is. You look at what you believe in and you follow that. And then it's like, see, I told you. See, I told you. See, I told you. To me, guys, that's almost just as toxic as going into the comment section and having arguments with people. Use social media to build you up. Don't use social media to stay triggered. And one of the biggest things that we can do to build each other up is keep each other accountable. So that's what I got for this week, guys. I want you to think about how you can become a better person in 2022, where you need to direct your energy, where you need to put your efforts, and then put that out to the world. Share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it with me. And come 2023, I want to look back and I want to see what we succeeded in, what we failed in, and how we move forward into the following year.